and of course that is the GNU. The 2024 election was emblematic of the trend that we are seeing in the international sphere. People are growing more fearful, and when they become more fearful, they tend to become more tribal and insular. And the way in which the flow of information works these days means that politics happens in polarizing bubbles. It is increasingly difficult to win support for more moderate liberal positions in this environment. The same held true in South Africa. The Zulu nationalist MKP came in like a wrecking ball, seeking revenge, and won almost 15% of the vote. The Coloured Nationalist Patriotic Alliance, which has existed since 2013, has suddenly also found electoral resonance. Both it and the National Coloured Congress won seats in Parliament for the first time last year. But the DA bucked the international trend. Back at the DA's federal head office, we've recently done a comparative deep dive into the state of liberal politics globally. With 22% of the vote, the DA stands as one of the best performing liberal parties on the planet. Our growth in the context of a liberal retreat worldwide and the rise of fringe politics is an exception on the international stage. So we mustn't beat up too much on ourselves. When you look at the handful of other liberal parties that have maintained some success in this era, they tend to exist in more homogeneous, wealthier, and safer societies. South Africa is none of the above. To forge a liberal offering in our context is something that no one else has replicated. We are a global outlier at this moment in time, and we have been actually for many years and will continue to be. The reason why we have been able to do it is because we have held our liberal backbone in the Democratic Alliance when most other liberal parties worldwide have not. They have bent and succumbed to the cancer of identity politics, pretending to be progressive. We in the DA have resisted both the regression of wokeness and the lure of narrow racial nationalism. We have stayed true to ourselves and what we believe in, that most South Africans want to flourish in a non-racial constitutional democracy that protects everybody's rights and freedoms. That put us in a position to capitalize when the ANC did what all liberation movements eventually do, which is fracture, fail, and fall. They have not reached the end of that downward path yet, and there is a lot more push that we have to exert. Hence, the GNU. Let me be frank. The GNU has been difficult, and that is an understatement. We knew that the ANC would play dirty, but the ANC has fallen below even my very low expectations of it. However difficult the GNU is for us, however imperfect what comes out of it, the alternative to what we have now is a coalition of Paul Mashatile, Jacob Zuma, and Julius Malema. That would seal the deal in South Africa's trend towards state failure. It would seal the deal for expropriation without compensation. It would be the end of private healthcare, private education, and the protection of minority rights. It would be the end of any hopes of revival for our economy or credibility on the international stage. It would institutionalize and industrialize corruption as we've never seen it before. There's got to be fundamental structural reform to get economic growth happening in South Africa. The labor laws, amongst others, have to be changed to make it easier for people to start businesses, stay in business, employ people, and enable people to get jobs because they know that the employers know that they're not taking too much of a risk going down that route. That is absolutely essential. There've also got to be fundamental changes to attract investment. And it's quite clear. The BBBEE laws, apart from the insecurity of electricity supply, are among the greatest deterrents of economic investment in South Africa. And those laws haven't worked at all to empower black people broadly. Quite the contrary. Those laws have indeed enriched tiny connected elite and made the vast majority of people poorer and poorer because they're unemployed. So we know that we would have Starlink in South Africa if it weren't for that, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We would have a huge amount of increasing investment. We have to get rid of corruption if we want investment. We have to save billions in a spending review to redirect that money into things that grow the economy and create certainty and ensure that people believe there's a future here. And so those are some of the things we have to do.
Is the ANC captured by those beneficiaries of BEE? And I ask this because we had a very powerful interview last week with the IRR, with Gabriel Kraus, where they quantify that the cost of BEE, the premium, the legal premium, is 150 billion rand a year. And Gabriel said, get rid of that and you can drop VAT down to 11.5%.
Well, absolutely. And if you look at preferential procurement laws, oh my goodness, now we're also going to challenge that in court because it just puts a huge premium on everything the state buys and costs an absolute fortune. And a spending review would have to look at that. So demanding a spending review is one of our top priorities. We want to save 60 billion from the national budget in the first round and 40 billion from provincial budgets to release into growth. And the critical things that we also need to do is fix the infrastructure. If you want, we have to concession the ports. We have to concession the rail. We have to get reliable water systems that provide clean water to everybody. Those are the stuff that we absolutely have to do. The network industries, everything has to work.
It's such a big job. We're sitting here, I'm sure, kind of scratching your head and saying, oh my goodness. But you did it in Cape Town. You did it in the Western Cape. It just seems to take time. How long might it take for our country to be operating the rest of the country like the Western Cape is?
Well, a long time ago, we decided that we weren't going to win a national election first, so we should start from the bottom up. And we could see where we could win and try and win there and try and make a difference to show that good governance actually does make a difference. And you see that also in the employment statistics. You know, where the DA governs, jobs are growing, and that's critical. Obviously, that changes the demography and has other consequences, but nevertheless, jobs are growing, and that is critical. When I became mayor in 2006 in Cape Town, the ANC had not been in power all that long and had not managed to break things down entirely. They were busy clearing out the middle level of management to deploy their cadres. They had broken down the entire functional organogram. There was quite a lot of corruption. Potholes were appearing, people weren't paying their rates, traffic lights weren't working, all the morbid symptoms. But it was salvageable. And it was salvageable within 3 years. We could fix the finances. We started cutting people off for not paying, starting with the wealthy people in Camps Bay and the government departments. We started balancing the budget again. We started delivering services. We eradicated corruption. We appointed the right people in the right position. And when you start getting that virtuous cycle, it takes over and lifts all ships.
I've given up on the corporates in South Africa. It's too tough for them. They're surrounded by PIC, BEE, unions, employees. They've got jobs. They can get fired. I've been very tough on them for not standing up, but I'm leaving them alone now. I am going to focus on the South Africans overseas. I have a list of 200 wealthy South Africans overseas. You've heard of the billionaires. There are 35 of them. The two richest people in LA are South African born. Elon Musk, Patrick Soon-Shiong, number one, number two. And there are another 32 around the world, billionaires. But what you haven't heard of are the people worth $200 million to $800 million. Cobus Stofberg, Pierre Nordier, and I can go on and on and on and on. And they're the people that I'm going to focus on to bring serious money behind the ideology battle that we're going to face. And then media, thank you. And then media. News 24 is just a voice of the ANC. The Daily Maverick does a very good job on investigative journalism, but they are anti-business. And I also don't think they are particularly pro some of the Judeo-Western countries that we believe in and we should be proud of. There are about 30 podcasters in this country, from Gareth Cliff to Sihle Big Daddy, Mlozi Majoji, CERN Citizen. If you've never heard of these people, Mac G. If you've never heard of these people, you're in the echo chamber you shouldn't be in. And Morning Shot, and Ronaldo Khos, and Roman Kabanak. There are about 30 of these podcasters who are singing the same song sheet as the GNU and as us in the room. Get behind them. Go onto their podcasts and click the button subscribe. It's free, but then click on join. Some of them are asking for 20 Rand a month. 20 Rand a month. If everyone in this room gave them, each of them, 20 Rand a month, how much would that cost you? 200 Rand a month? Sure, most of you can afford that. But it makes them, it amplifies what they're saying enormously. And finally, in the last minute and a half, a manifesto. We need to put South Africa first. And South Africa first is the 5 Fs. It's not the ones you might be thinking. Family, flag, facts, freedom, and faith. I could turn those 4 Fs into a manifesto that says free markets, deregulation, sell off private SOEs, and run down a manifesto of 10 points. But those 10 points are already the manifesto of the DA, and much to Helen's horror, the manifesto of the PA as well, but also the IFP, FF Plus, and ACDP. Those 5 political parties need to come together in a more meaningful way and fight the fight together and promote this ideology. And wouldn't you, I certainly would, be proud of having lead our country, Helen Zille, Gate McKenzie, Corné Mulder, Hlobisa, and all of those great people. You can throw in Chris Pappas, you can throw in tons of other great people working together on the new ideology with the 5S and putting South Africa first. Nothing happened. In every speech I've ever given in 3 years, I've hammered the ANC, hammered all these issues. And this was time to sort of try and understand where we are and where we can go. And I'm trying to shift away from attack the ANC in every single speech. We all know they're a disaster. The MK and EFF will be even worse. We know that. We've heard all the stats. And everybody in this room has PTSD because every time you open the newspaper, it's more stealing, more corruption, more kleptocracy, more ineptocracy. It's sickening. America calls South Africa DEI as a country. And he's right. It's disgusting what the ANC has done. But we are where we are. And what we must do is take some credit as white people for the amount of work we've done since 1994 in paying trillions in tax and in all the efforts we've made to improve people's lives. Not just the DA doing it and the other political parties, but individuals. So what I'm trying to say is, where are we? We attack the ANC, MK, and EFF every day, and all it's doing, it's getting people's backs up. We need to now fight an ideological battle. And it's swinging in this direction in every country in the world. The world has woken up that socialism doesn't work, free markets work, and that's the battle we need to fight now. We need to engage the average South African who is a capitalist, who does have faith, who believes in family, who believes in the flag, and we need to engage them now and bring them over to our way of thinking. We need the political structure to form a center-right pole instead of fighting amongst themselves. Easier said than done. We need media to come together and sell this ideology. And that's where I want to go from now. I want to explain socialism doesn't work. Capitalism does. We can carry on every single day complaining about what the ANC is doing. And I will.
I don't think it's about complaining. I think, South Africans, and I don't know, I see South Africans as of all, because we serve everybody in our platform. There's no way that I see myself as a white South African. I see myself as a South African. And I guess, who's we?
Yeah.
When you say we, who's we?
We South Africans.
But you say we must do this and we must talk to the white, black people and we must do. Who's we? Who do you, when you talk like that, who
Do you know, I've never,
we?
ever made a speech in racial terms, ever. You can go back 3 years. I attack the ANC, I attack MK, I attack EFF. I don't say black or white. But the reality is, for the last month, I've been trying to put myself in a position of the average person in South Africa, the poor, the unemployed, the homeless, the hopeless, and try and see it from their perspective. Because my wife said to me, she said, why is it? It's so blatantly obvious the ANC have failed. Why is it that 41% voted ANC, 15 MK, and 7 EFF, that's 65% of the country still voting for a failed ideology? Why is it? She said, is it as simple as a T-shirt, a bus to get to the polling station, and a Kentucky Fried Chicken? And I said, yes, it is. Which means we're not doing the right thing. We're not fighting the ideology battle. And that's what we have to do now.
Education, education, education. If you thought education's expensive, try ignorance. And I guess that's where you're coming from.
Let me give you the good news, and that is rescuing our future. Let me remind you of something that you know. We have a beautiful country called South Africa. This country is, and I've been fortunate like you. I have traveled the world. I know what I'm talking about. This is one of the best countries in the world, without a doubt. Without a doubt. That's how I want to begin my Rescuing the Future project. First, if we are going to rescue the future, and I believe that this country can be rescued, and this country can be a Singapore of Africa, without a doubt. The formula, I'm going to give you some of the elements now. One, we must all believe that infrastructure can be rebuilt. That's the first thing. So I know Johannesburg has been turned into a slum. Durban is a slum. Mangaung, Bloemfontein, I drove through there. It's a garbage heap. We must all believe infrastructure can be rebuilt. I mean, by the way, if you look at our infrastructure, it's not broken compared to Europe after the Second World War. It's not broken at all. Well, Europe was what? Rebels all over. Germany. But go to Berlin today, and I've been to Berlin, and look at it. So infrastructure can be rebuilt. That's the first thing. So if I wanted to sort out our public health, for example, I would go to Soweto. I wouldn't build a new hospital. I would simply go to Chris Hani Baragwanath and say to the deployed cadre who runs that in the name of a CO, you are out. Number one, I appoint a proper manager and say, your job as the proper manager is to clean the hospital. Just to clean, water, soap, and mop. Just clean the damn thing. The second thing is, you are a proper manager, manage this thing well. It used to run well, and the hospital is still there, so you don't need a new hospital. So infrastructure can be rebuilt. The second thing is that we must prioritize political criminals. At the top, we say they are a special project. You talk to the judiciary to say, set aside special capacity. These people, when we arrest them, they must be processed. There's rule of law. The Constitution allows us. We can do that. They are, and at the top, former ministers, all of them, former presidents, we prioritize them, we lock them up. Period. Once you lock them up, a clerk down there, if you lock up the former minister and the former president, will stop whatever they're doing, whatever nonsense. You will stop whatever nonsense. You could even send a message, by the way, to communities who banning schools. If you ban a public property like a school, a clinic, it's 50 years in jail, you're not coming back. It's law, minimum sentencing. It sounds crazy, but you can pass a law in parliament that says you ban a school, you are angry about service delivery, but don't ban a school. You don't touch a school. You go 50 years in jail. The third is that the framework, philosophy, Helen, you need two things in South Africa. You need a competent state and a competitive private sector. The state must be competent, because if it is incompetent, the results are the collapse of public infrastructure that is generalized in South Africa. So you do need to have a competent state. The example of it, by the way, and I say this, people say, yeah, you like the DA. It is the DA government in the Western Cape. I mean, I travel across South Africa. I know. I have been to Mangaung. I want to cry when I look at that city because I know it before. So, competent state, competitive private sector. And that, for me, would be very, very worrying. If you had a relatively okay leadership after Cyril Ramaphosa of the ANC, what you would have, you still have a GNU with the ANC below 50%, and the DA under 25%. The DA will not break above 25% in the next election. And then they would be in the 50s. They would still form a government of coalition, which is a bit shaker. That would be like a frog. It would be taking us softly into the new politics. One thing for sure, we will not reverse our trajectory towards our new politics. South Africa has entered the new politics. The old politics of big liberation parties is over.
Prince, you did mention a little bit about what's happening on the global front, but only a little bit. There is a point of view that what is happening with AfriForum and others going to Washington, this is going to give the ANC a second wind. It's going to enable its old supporters to come back and say, we're not going to listen to this crazy guy, Trump, and actually we're going to give the ANC our votes next time round in 2027. What's your reading of that?
Yeah, I didn't touch on global politics because Helen has done a good job. I mean, there was no point in me sounding like a broken record. Of course, I don't agree with everything that she said. Just to give you an example, on Iran, my policy, if you ask me, fortunately, I don't have a political party, so I can represent my own jacket. My policy towards Iran would be they are neither a friend or an enemy, period. There are some countries far away in Asia, Middle East. They're causing trouble to those countries there. It's none of my business, especially if you are in a troubled world like we are in. This is when you're supposed to focus mainly domestically and consolidate national unity. That would be my approach. But let's park that. AfriForum. What AfriForum is doing, I don't agree with it. Place it on the table. You see, AfriForum is not different from the ANC because the AfriForum goes to the US, to Trump. And Trump is a crazy chap. I mean, it's not a proper president who has thought through the implications of what he's doing for America and the Western project. He hasn't thought through that. He's a crazy chap. At the end of the day, he's shooting America in the foot. At the end of his project, America will not be a leader of anything. At the end of his project, will not lead the world. It won't lead the West. It will lead absolutely nothing. And by the way, the Americans are going to turn against Trump and Elon Musk. Mark my words. But let's park that. AfriForum, if it goes to America, the ANC has the right then to go to Iran. What's the difference? The one chooses to go to the White House. Let the ANC go to their friends as well. This is wrong. We should not be going outside to solve our problems. We've got brains inside here. We need to sit as South Africans, like we did, by the way, at CODESA, by the way. We didn't go to the US. We didn't go to Iran. We didn't go to Russia. We sat and sorted out our issues. So if you've got a different opinion, let's sit. I want to talk to you. So AfriForum should should never have gone there. The last point is, we all know, if we are rational, that what they are saying to the US is not correct. The Afrikaners in South Africa are not killed en masse. I'm not saying there are no farm murders. There are farm murders just like there are murders in South Africa. I mean, black communities, by the way, are hell compared to what the Afrikaner farmers are living through. So they should never have gone there to do what they did. So I disagree with that, but I haven't answered your question. No, the black people are not going to vote for the ANC simply because of the noises that are coming from the Tula House. Black people are not idiots. They can figure out what is going on.